Hey, what's up, all our Lead Venture fans? This is Ken Freire, one of the co-founders of Lead Venture, as well. I am here with Dave, who is the Executive Vice President of Bethany Global University, and also the founder of Lead Venture. So today we are here to discuss a question that one of you guys have emailed us about, and it's this topic of how to handle bad leadership. Right now, Dave, the question that came up was that this young leader came to us and was asking like, hey, I am working in ministry or in a work context, but I have a bad leader over me and I don't know how to handle it and what to do. And with all your years of experience, training leaders, I wanted to ask you, what kind of advice would you give this young man who is in this predicament? How do you handle bad leadership?
Well, it's going to happen at some point in your career or in your life, whether you're in local church or you're in a ministry or a secular workplace. You're going to encounter leadership that's not going to be great. And interestingly, as you develop as a leader, you'll start to identify bad leadership more readily because you'll sort of know what good leadership should look like and you'll realize this is not good leadership. But I would encourage people with this. And let me just differentiate, Ken, between secular and within the church. Within the church, I think you have to be very careful before you start identifying someone as a bad leader. Mm-hmm. They may lead differently than you. They may lead with a different style, but it may even be possible God put that person in your path to sharpen and change you and shape you. I think of King Saul over David. I think we could probably all look at King Saul and say there were some improvements he could have made in his leadership.
Yeah, absolutely.
And David was shaped by that. So God used that in David's life to shape him. Had David said, "This is ridiculous. I'm not going to submit or stay under this leadership. I'm going to kill Saul," he would have ruined God's plan for his life. At the same time, I think that if we have a mindset that says, "Well, I'm just going to submit to all leadership, even if it's bad," you can put yourself in a pretty dangerous situation. You can take advantage of it in a bad way. So that is not what I'm suggesting. Yeah. So you have to differentiate between bad leadership, meaning someone who's got poor leadership qualities, and bad leadership being someone who's committing some kind of immoral activity or unethical activity. If you have a leader over you that's engaged in immoral or unethical activity, I think you have a responsibility to have the courage to go to those who are in authority over that leader and bring justice into that situation. And that may be a board, that may be a boss above your boss, or that may be the police, depends on whatever authority needs to come in. But if you're under a bad leader, okay, first of all, I believe I'm responsible for what I do. I'm going to stand before God at the end of time and in judgment for the behavior I engage in. And if the leader over me is making bad decisions, not unethical, not immoral, just bad decisions, I have a responsibility to still be faithful in my responsibilities and in essence, protect the people that are serving under me. So I can sort of serve as a buffer between someone who's making bad, poor leadership choices, maybe bringing stress, maybe being, just doing things that are breaking trust, creating anxiety in followers. Maybe the leader's just scatterbrained. It's every day. It's a new flavor of the month, new pair of shoes. I, as a leader, can bring stability to the people I'm leading, and then I just need to deal with it and just take it from the leader that's over me. Now, eventually, I may get to the place where I say, this isn't a healthy place for me to work. It's not a healthy environment for me to go into every day. It's toxic, or it's demeaning to me, or I don't want to be in this. Then there's an appropriate way for me to exit that situation and do so in the right way. I would say this. If the leader over you is bad in that they're making really bad decisions and the leadership over them isn't really aware of it, I think you have to determine, do I have a responsibility to bring to light the authority over my leader, what's actually happening in this environment, and then do that in the appropriate way and in the right way. Matthew 18, follow the grievance procedures lined out in your particular organization or your workplace. But you can have a very successful job, a very successful career, even with a bad leader over you. You just serve as the buffer and be a good leader yourself.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome, Dave. And when you were talking about that, you had mentioned there might be a certain time of when you would need to leave. There might be certain signs. What would be those people? Say they're like the students, like, I've tried everything. I've been a good buffer. I've been there making sure that I take care of my responsibilities, but it is just getting too hard. When's a good time for them to know when to bail out?
Well, before I answer that, let me just say this. Yeah. In serving in that buffer role, I am not in any way saying that you just don't challenge the leader over you when they're making bad choices or behaviors in some way undermining the effectiveness, the cohesiveness of the team. I think you as the follower can appropriately confront the person who's in leadership over you and bring to light concerns. If you're doing that confronting, or you're doing that appropriately, bringing those concerns to the leader over you, and there's no change, there's no willingness to change, the leader's like, look, you're a clown, close your mouth, we're not doing what you're saying, we're not gonna follow through on anything that you've said. Then you start to realize, okay, I'm not gonna be able to bring change into this environment. This isn't gonna change. And if the leadership over your leader is like, that person's great and they're not gonna change them, and then I decide it's time for me to step away, I think some of the things that you would evaluate in that determination to step away is this starting to affect me personally? Am I carrying anxiety into my family, into my home, into my personal life? Am I hating going to work? Is it just very toxic and it's starting to change who I am?
Yeah.
Then you want to get out of that situation,
Yeah.
step out of that situation, step out from under that leader. If that's within the church, then you would look for a different church to go to. But that's after you've taken some steps to try to bring correction. And those steps have been basically shut down or not followed. People are like, we're not changing anything.
Yeah.
So deal with it. Then you can deal with it. And if you decide, I don't want to deal with it, then you can go do something else.
Yeah.
You don't have to stay there.
So with that, if they take the proper steps, one of the things that you mentioned that I think is fascinating for us to discuss about is this concept of confronting your leader. Now, what kind of encouragement can you give to these people watching? Because I know it can be really hard to, confront your leader,
Sure.
and because you might be afraid of losing your job, or
For sure.
you might lose reputation or status. What kind of encouragement would you give that individual?
Well, first of all, let me say this: if you're gonna bring concerns to your leader, your boss, about your boss's behavior, you better make sure your own ducks are in a row. You've been a good employee.
Yeah.
You've been faithful. You're coming to work on time. You're fulfilling the stated objectives in your own role that need to be accomplished. And you're bringing it to the person over you with the right spirit. So let's say you were my boss,
Yeah.
Ken. I would come to you and say, hey, Ken, I know that you probably have a desire to see the team strong and see us reach our quarterly objectives and accomplish our goals. Is that kind of what you want to see happen?
Yeah, I do. But quite frankly, I see all of you being slackers right now.
No, I understand that. Ken, I think what might help is, instead of referring to all of us who are working what we think is really hard as slackers and coming out and telling us we're lazy and we should quit sitting around all the time, I don't think that's really motivating the team to change. What might be helpful would be if you point out when we're doing something good, you bring some positive immediate feedback on that. And when we're doing something we shouldn't be doing, you bring immediate feedback on that too. But you be very specific. Because when you walk out and just call all of us slackers, Bobby, he was working really hard over there at the fryer, and Susie, she wasn't. So maybe you could specifically say to Bobby, look, you're working hard, and Susie, here's what I need you to do to improve. I just think that would help all of us. So anyway, that was an idea I had.
Yeah, I'll take that into consideration, but you do need to realize I am the boss, so whatever I say goes.
You got it. I understand.
Okay,
Thanks.
good to know.
Now, that was me basically confronting my boss, saying, look, maybe there's a way to do this, a way to do that, but it's with the right spirit. My heart isn't, hey, you're a jerk, and I'm not going to work for the man, and I'm sick and tired of you telling me how it's going to be because you're the boss over everybody, and you just think you're this. If that's my heart attitude, I probably should get fired, frankly, and get kicked out of the organization.
Yeah.
So I think there's a way to bring that. I have employees that work for me, Ken, and they bring what I would consider to be soft confrontation regularly. They're challenging me all the time. I have people that have served in the organizations I've served in that bring feedback and confrontation, and it's all helpful. If I have the right heart, it's helpful. So when you're in leadership, receive the correction. Even if you don't like it, receive it and say, where's the truth in that? Let me change. If you're bring it in such a way that the person can receive it. Like you have to have a tender heart and a compassionate, almost like a meek heart that brings it in a way that the leader can receive it. Because frankly, if you've got a bad leader or someone who's poor in leadership, they're probably not super confident in their leadership,
Absolutely.
which is why they're a bad leader.
Yeah.
So you have to try to help them become a better leader, knowing you're dealing with sometimes what can seem like a cornered animal.
Yeah. And the worst part is that they might not even know that they're a bad leader because they're just doing what someone else taught them to do.
Exactly.
So it's important for us who know leadership skills to keep cultivating and helping those below us and above us to become better leaders.
Or they've been watching movies of these leaders that are like fire everybody, hitting them in the head. You know, I'm Al Capone. I'm going to hit you in the back of the head with a baseball bat. I'm this tough guy. Hollywood. That doesn't work, actually, in the workplace. I don't like working for a leader like that. You don't. People don't enjoy that. They're not going to do their best. There's some great literature. Patrick Lencioni, I think that's how you pronounce his name, but he's written a number of really good books that give some ideas on how to lead. Ken Blanchard has written a great book that really helps you understand how we can lead in such a way that's going to build trust and build up the team, and you'd be a better leader. So maybe you just get Ken Blanchard's book, Leading at a Higher Level, and you give it to your boss for his birthday or for Christmas and be like, hey, here's some good reading material.
It's a great idea. Dave, I have a book I want to give you.
Exactly. Okay.
I'm just kidding. Well, Dave, thank you so much for your time. This is super helpful. Guys, I hope that this has helped you guys. Remember, if you have a bad leader, a couple of things you could do is confront them, right? But make sure when you confront them, you have all your ducks in a row. Right? And that you will become a buffer for all those other people. I think that if you show yourself as a great example to everybody else on how to lead and how to be a good worker, you'll have more influence to speak to your manager. And then lastly, you know, like Dave said, there will be a time when you need to realize when you need to break away from those things. And he kind of gave all those pointers there. So hopefully this is helpful. If you're still interested in learning more about leadership, we encourage you to come check out Lead Venture. And you could go to the website at leadventure.org and come join us here this fall for our 4-month internship. Hope you have a great day and God bless.